Hey everyone, Bandit here. Welcome to the Bandit Flight Simmer channel, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial video on a modification that I used in the last flight, and I thought it was worth going a little bit more in depth on the use of this modification. And I'll just bring up the website here. And basically what it is, it's a replacement for the G1000 screen on your GA aircraft. And it replaces it with a GTN750 touchscreen, which makes using the Garmin system a lot more user-friendly for flying in the sim, and I'll talk about that in a second. So here's the website, and I'll put a link to it in the description. It's from a developer called PMS50, and right now it's in beta test. And the beta is free for the premium, but eventually they're going to charge a price for it, and I'm not sure how much it's going to be. But right now, as long as it's not too expensive, I think it's a really worthwhile product. It works pretty good right now in the beta form, and I've tried it out fairly extensively, so I thought I'd give a little demo to all of you who would probably like to use the system as well. So the system comes with a fairly extensive documentation, and I'll just open that up real quick. And basically it's a PDF file that you can save to your computer, and it goes through installation, setup, and these are the aircraft that you can use the modification in. It's the 172, the DA40, the DA40 Mod, the DA62 and the DA62 Mod, which I use quite extensively, the G36 and the Grand Caravan. I've used it in the Grand Caravan as well. So today we're going to be doing the DA62 Mod, and so it goes through the installation of the premium and basic packages, and it was pretty simple. Just put it in your community folder, follow the directions. I did have one issue the second time I loaded up the sim. I kept getting an activation error where I kept getting this message where your license cannot be checked. And so anyway, I just followed the directions, did the license deactivation, reactivation, and then it's been working fine ever since. So anyway, I think this is a really good product, so let's hop inside the aircraft and go through the setup and how to use this modification to your Garmin 1000. Okay, so here we are in the aircraft, and I'm just going to put the master on, the avionics master, and you're going to get this initialization screen, and you see the mod GTN750 here and the version that you're on, and then it's going to go up to the initial window here. So let's zoom in and focus on the screen for a little bit. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to show you two ways to do your flight plan, and then we'll get going. So this one here, I'm just going to run on battery, and we will go through the flight plan load here. So you go into the flight plan key here, and we start off by setting our destination. And today's flight, I'm going to be doing a quick flight from Kelowna to Vancouver, and it's going to allow us to see most of the features of this modification. So let's start off by putting in Kelowna, CYLW, our destination. And this is the reason why I like this mod so much, is normally when I'm entering a flight plan, I'm using the little knobs here to go press it, select, see, rotate with the mouse, and it's very frustrating and time consuming. And with the touchscreen, it just makes the input of all your data so much simpler. Frequencies as well, we'll go over that shortly, but I find this modification makes flying these GA aircraft so much more user-friendly than trying to control these knobs all the time with the mouse control. So that's why I like this modification so much, and I definitely think it's worth getting. So anyway, we'll continue on here. We're going to go to Vancouver, CYVR. And I filed a flight plan on SimBrief, and we are going to have a couple en route waypoints. So the first one is going to be Merit. It's MERYT. And the next one is going to be Booth, BOOTH. And we want the booth that's in Canada, not Japan. So that's our basic flight plan so far. So we can go back and we can look on the map. And this is the basic map mode when you're tracking your GPS navigation track. And we can zoom in and zoom out with these two keys here. So let's zoom out. And the other thing you can do with the map also is drag the map around by using it like a touch screen. So you just put your mouse on and you can drag it around. And remember, the way you had to do it with the G1000 was just to select this, and then you had to hold the mouse in the direction you want it to move the map around. So definitely way easier to use. And when you're in this mode, you're in what's called pan mode, and you'll see pan mode displayed down here. And there's some other features you can use with that as well. So anyway, this is our track, Merit, Booth, and Vancouver. So it definitely looks pretty good. That's where we want to go. So now we can go back to the main menu and just keep hitting back till you get to the main menu. And the next thing we want to do is add a procedure. So getting out of Kelowna, it's fairly mountainous. So it's if you're going to go IFR, you definitely want to file a RNAV departure to make sure you stay clear of terrain on the way out. So we'll go to procedures, and then you have all your different procedures you can choose from. So we're going to choose the departure procedure. So we're in Kelowna, and we are going to do the Merit. And this gives you a preview of the departure and the waypoint. So now you can compare it to your chart and make sure all the points are correct. And you can also change runways if you need to go to 3-4. It shows you the other way. So we'll go back to, we're going to be taking off on 16. So that's there's no transition associated with this one, so that's fine. That's the way it's published. So we got Kelowna, Merit 2, off runway 16. That's exactly what I want to do. So now I'll load that departure. Now it's in my flight plans. So if I look down here, we got the departure out of Kelowna, the Merit 2. And if we go back to the procedures, you see it's also loaded Kelowna, runway 16, Merit 2. So that's that. We can also load our arrival here. I'll just show you how to do that as well. And we are going to be coming into Vancouver. We're going to be doing the Canuck 5. There's no transition to select for that. And again, I think they're landing on runway 8 in Vancouver. So you can choose your runway here as well. So we'll stick with 8 left. And we get a preview of the arrival, and that looks like the arrival right there. So I'm happy to load that. And then I'll just go back to map mode, and we can now look at the whole plan here on our map. And that pretty much, we can zoom in, get a closer look at it, and that, yeah, it looks like perfect. That's all the waypoints that we're going to have on our arrival. So yeah, that looks really good. So I think that is pretty much set up for our flight plan to Vancouver. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hop out of the sim, restart it, get rid of all this flight plan. I'm going to show you another way to load your flight plan, and then we'll get up and on our way. One more thing I wanted to add before I load the flight plan the alternate way is to show you what we use the buttons for here. Now, because it's a touchscreen, a lot of these buttons are not active, like menu button doesn't do anything, flight plan, procedure buttons don't do anything. You can still use this cursor. You see column frequency push nav, and so we can switch to nav, and we can change our frequency here if you want to choose to do it that way, or you can go to your push it again and change your frequencies on your comm. So that works for that. You can still zoom in and out with this range button. but the pan doesn't work, and I don't even think it works in pan mode now. So it's just for a range if you want to do it instead of using the in-out buttons here. And one other button that you're going to need to use frequently, and I looked for a long time in here to find a direct to feature, and I couldn't find it anywhere, but this is the one button you actually need to use. So you go direct to, and then you can just type in a waypoint. So you can just pick a waypoint that's nearby, like there's one, WHORT, enter, and then you can activate direct to WART. I'm not going to do that. Or you can go to your flight plan, and you can go direct to waypoint your flight plan, and you can activate that, and then off you go. So this button you definitely need to be using quite a bit, but the other buttons do not work, and some have limited functionality because most of it's done through a touchscreen. So I just wanted to point that out before we move on, and now we'll go reload the flight plan using the alternate method. Okay, we're back in the airplane here, and I got it started up this time because I don't want to drain the battery, because I might not be able to get a good start off of it. So now we're back to the initial screen here again. There's no flight plan loaded. So if we go to flight plan, there's another option where we can select menu, and you can store routes in your for each aircraft, and you can create a I'll show you how to do that momentarily, but you can also save a flight plan on your computer, and it explains in the guide how to do it. So I made a flight plan with SimBrief. You can use a little nav map to make a flight plan, and you can save it as a .plan for our Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then you save it in the applicable folder for the as described in the guide there, and then you can import it. So when I go import, you can see I have my flight plan from Kelowna to Vancouver, and then I select OK, and it loads it all up. And the flight plan included the merit booth and the arrival for the Canuck 5 into Vancouver. So now if I go back, look at my map, and I'll just double check, and we'll see you got merit, booth, and there's our arrival into Vancouver. So the only thing we need to load now is the departure, because that wasn't included in the plan. So if I just go to procedures, pick the departure, merit 2 off of 16, load departure, and we go back and look at the map again, and we see now that that's included in our route. So there we go. So that's another way to load your flight plan. And if I want now, I have this flight plan, I can actually store this flight plan into the system. So now it's stored that flight plan, and it's there, and I can come back and recall it at another time if I want to use it. So that is it for the flight plan loading. Now while we're on the ground here too, I might as well go over a few other features before we get airborne here. And so again, here's the home screen. So you do have some functions up top which include controlling the COM frequencies and the NAV frequencies. And as far as I know, I can only use this to control COM1 or NAV1. And that's fine, that's what you use 90% of the time. Now you can still go over here and control your NAV and COM frequencies with the normal dials using the G1000 knobs here. So I can tune a COM frequency here and do it here and then switch. So I can do that with COM1, and if I need to go to COM2, I can switch COM2. Now, since I use COM1 90% of the time, it's nice to just be able to do it here, and it uses a touchscreen interface. So if I can put in my frequencies here, so 1199, I can enter that, and now that's in standby mode. And I can just swap it And if I need to put in another frequency real quick, I just go 1, 2, 6, 7, and I can just hit transfer and it goes right to the active frequency. So that's a nice, quick, and easy way to enter your frequencies. Same thing with the nav. You can switch up here again with the transfer button. And if you want to enter a frequency 1152, and you can transfer it right in right away. So that's a nice, quick, easy way to use your comm panels and your nav panels, just for nav 1 and comm 1 though. And then you can also do your ADF. So I can put in my squawk 2376, enter, and I can also control it, put it on or altitude reporting, and set that. So that shows that it's squawking altitude, and there we go. I can do an ident here if I need to, and that's done. And then these other audio panel just allows you to select what you're monitoring. So I'm monitoring COM 1, mic selection COM 1. So here's mic and monitor, shows up here what I'm monitoring. Intercom is not functioning right now, and that's fine. I don't really need to use it. Also, I can really change what I transmit on up here really quick, and I can change what I'm monitoring really quick here as well. So mic 1 and monitor 1, that's usually what I want it in, and that's fine, but it gives you other options just to quickly change those if you need to. If you're flying on VATSIM for some reason and you need to use another frequency, you can switch your transmit frequency there, and now you're monitoring both, and then you can switch back. So if you need to monitor both for some reason, you can do that. If you want to listen to ATIS, and then get rid of it. So it's a nice feature there. So that's the top portion of the comm and nav, and we'll also talk about a couple other features here real quick before we get going, and then we'll head off to Vancouver. So I'll go over the map functions, traffic, terrain, weather when we get airborne. Another feature I want to talk about before we get going is the waypoint info feature, and this is where you can get airport information. So we want, say, some information. It defaults to our destination, but we can change it right here. So we can see CYLW, and this gives us the basic information about Kelowna. And then we can have these tabs here, we can get more information, and it talks about in the setup guide how you can link your weather to the sim as well. And then one of the nice things you can get here is now the weather data. So we look at Kelowna, the winds are 170 at 6, and variable winds 9 miles, 12 degrees, 2976. So we can go set our altimeter. And yeah, it's a nice day there. So basically clear skies and light winds, and we're going to be taking off with these winds on runway 16. So that's a nice feature to be able to get the weather right there. And then you also have a preview. You can just look at the preview of the airport from the Garmin map system, and you can zoom in and out. You can also see what procedures are available. You can also see the runways available, and it gives you the runway information. So it's 200 by 90, 124 feet, hard surface. And if there was other runways, you could select them up here. Gives you all the frequencies associated with the airport. So we have, say, ground we want to put in is 121.7, and actually you can select that right here. It puts it in your standby. And then we can swap it up here. And then we can have tower now in our backup ready to go. So that a quick way to get your frequencies. The weather data we showed, NOTAMs are not available right now. And nearest visual reference points, they're not active either right now, or there's none in the system anyway for Kelowna. So, so that's all the airport information. Is really handy, and you can do that for any airport. So we can go back to Vancouver now. And we can check the weather in Vancouver. In Vancouver, the winds are 220 at 6, 20 miles, just broken 5,500 feet, 11 degrees, 2988 when we need it. So that's the airport info, and that's very useful. You can also check on intersections, VORs, and DBs, and it doesn't look like the other features are active yet here, but like I said, it is a beta, it's a work in progress, so I'm sure some of these will be coming up in the future. So we go back now, and next thing I want to show you quickly before we go is the charts. So again, we have chart info here. So if you have a Navigraph subscription, it shows you in the setup guide how to link your Navigraph subscription to the sim here, and so now we can access charts. So we're in Kelowna right now, so we want to access the Kelowna charts. So we'll go CYLW, and we want to go get the info, basic info. So let's get the airport chart first here. And here we are, we have the Kelowna airport charts. Let's go full screen, and it shows you the taxi diagram. And since I did my last video, he's just added the feature where it shows the actual aircraft position on the charts, which is really nice and handy. So you can zoom in, out, you can move the chart around with your mouse. So this shows you we're parked over here, and we're going to be taking off on runway 16. So it's just Alpha Foxtrot out to runway 16. So that's our anticipated taxi route there. You can even zoom in a little bit more if you want to see it a little bit more. And it's nice for busy airports where you can just kind of taxi around now, and you can have this in your peripheral vision to use as a taxi guide. Very handy. So then I go back and go back to charts again. Sorry. Now if I want to get back to another chart, I need to go back to split screen to get the input. So now the next chart I want is the departure chart. So if I go to departures, and then I select the Merit 2, and now it's going to bring up that chart, and I'll go full screen, and we can see the Merit departure. We can zoom in. We're going to be taking off on runway 16, and we're going to be following this route out to Merit, and we can read the routing. So off of 16, we're going to climb on a track of 159 to Ulekia, and then a track of 219 to Boxer, the track of 282 to Gabber, and then a track 292 to Tavo, track 264 to Merritt. There's no altitude restrictions, and that's it. So yeah, lots of useful information. We can see our departure frequency is 1335. Transition altitude and safe altitude, we're going to be climbing up to 12,000, and that's the minimum altitude for our route today. So all kinds of information there, and no altitude published that I can see. Oh, maintain 9,000, yep, so that we're going to set that in our altitude initially, and there we go. So that's handy. Now it's going to keep this. If I go back to, if I want to come back to that chart, I can just come back to it, and that will be the last chart. It'll just be in memory where we left off last time we used it until we load another chart. So I'm going to keep this one ready because we got a short taxi route. I don't need the taxi chart right now, and I think we're ready to go. So I'll go back to map, and we will zoom in, get that ready to go. And if you, this is what we're going to normally be using, which shows our track, what we're tracking, Kelowna to our first waypoint is Boxer. And if you move the pan around, and you want to get back to that, you just hit back, and it goes back to that main screen. Okay, so I think we've covered enough on the ground here, so let's get going off to Vancouver. So we're going to taxi out, so I would call ground, request taxi clearance, and we get our clearance of Alpha Foxtrot and taxi out. So I'm going to set my flaps, Get our taxi light, or sorry, taxi light on, position light on, and we're ready to taxi out. So park and brake off. It's a nice short taxi. So I'm not using ATC in this video today, but I will go through the frequency changes that we would be using just to show you how nice it is to be able to set them up using the touchscreen. So we're coming up to hold short of the runway at Alpha here. And I'll just stop here, set my parking brake, and just make sure now we're all set up for the departure. So we want to make sure our CDI is in GPS mode. We've got 8,000 feet set, or sorry, 9,000 feet set for the departure. I'm going to switch to tower frequency. I'm going to put our departure frequency in the backup, so that's ready to go. We got our flaps to take off, and everything looks good. We're going to put our fuel boost pumps on. And I think we're all ready to go. So we would call tower now and request takeoff, and tower would clear us takeoff on the Merit to departure off runway 16, and we will call departure airborne. Okay, so let's head out. We'll put our landing light on, strobe light on, taxi light off. Quick look to the left, it's all clear. Beautiful day here in Kelowna. Okay, just going to line up on the runway. I'll just set my heading bug center just in case we need it for anything. And off we go. Apply full power. And temperatures and pressures are good. There's 80 knots. Positive rate, gears up. Speed 100, flaps up. Okay, we're through 400 feet. And I'll get the autopilot on.
Engaging autopilot.
Put it on nav. And flight level change. And I'll climb at 110 knots. Indicate it. Get our pitot heat on. Sorry, I missed that. And we will reduce our power to our climb power 95%. So we got our gear is up, flaps are up, power is set. We're autopilot's active, tracking GPS, flight level change at 110 knots. We'll shut our boost pumps off, and our post takeoff check is complete. We'll go over to departure, and we would check in with departure. This is Bravo November Delta Tango. We are climbing 3.3 for 9,000 on the Merit 2. And he'd say, Roger, continue on the Merit 2 and climb to 2,000. So we'll set our cruise altitude of 12,000 and off we go. So now we can follow along on our GPS here. That we're following our track here. Looks pretty good. And we can also do it on the chart as well. So if I go back here, select the chart, and we can see that we're also following along on our published track on the chart. So it really increases the immersion and usefulness of the GPS by having your chart access here in the touchscreen interface. So we'll continue the climb up to 12,000 feet on this track, and I'll check in with you as we level off, and then we'll go through a few more features on the system here. Okay, so I'm back with you here. We level off at 12,000. We're still on the Merit departure here, and we're just in this little cloud layer. You can see we picked up a little bit of ice, and it's right around 12,000, so I don't want to hang out with that, so I'm going to request higher and say ATC will try 14,000. So select 14,000. I'll just go flight level change, and we will do it at 110 knots. Get up there, reset my climb power. Let's see if we can get out of these icing conditions here. We might have to go up to 16,000, but anyway, I'll check in with you once we level off and get en route to Vancouver. Okay, so we level off at 14,000 feet, and we just got above the cloud layer, so that's good. We'll hang out here for now. I turned on my de-icing just to get rid of the, clean up the wings there and clean up the windshield, and so I'm just going to shut that off right now. And yeah, so we're cruising along. We're still on the track for the departure, so it is a long departure procedure. And yeah, we're well above terrain here, cruising at 14,000 feet. So now let's go over some of the other features of the systems here. So I go back to the main menu, I'll zoom in here just so we can have a look. And I'll kind of keep an eye on this screen just in my peripheral vision here. So anyway, other features, so we talked about the map again. So you got your main map, navigation map that you use here. You can also use the pan feature. Another nice feature about pan mode is you can select a waypoint like Merit here, and it's going to tell you waypoint. You can go waypoint info to get info, but it tells you right here that the bearing is 253, the distance is 34 miles, and we're going to be there in 11 minutes. If you want to go to our next waypoint, Booth, and that's bearing 235, 80 miles, we're going to be there in 26 minutes. So really handy feature if ATC says, hey, what's your estimate for Booth? You can go, okay, well, click on Booth. Estimates in 26 minutes. So that's, you just add that, so it's going to be at right now 2 minutes after 11 local time. So yeah, so you can give him your ETA there. And so that's really useful feature. Also, if you need to find out more information about Booth, you can go up here and get the information about Booth as well. So really useful feature in the pan mode, and then you just go back to your normal navigation mode. So that's that. So we'll go back now. We got traffic information. If we have other aircraft, and I was doing a flight the other day in a busy area and there's lots of traffic, and you can actually zoom in and zoom out, and you can see the traffic info, where they are related to you in terms of how far away based on the scale here, and whether they're plus or minus in altitude. So that feature was working. Terrain, you can also have a look at your terrain and zoom in and zoom out again on the map. And here it's going to show us on our route at this altitude, so we're not going to have any issues with terrain that's going to be within 1,500 feet of our current elevation right now. So if you want to see, look ahead on your route and see if terrain obstacles were going to be an issue, you can have a look at that. Weather, they do have the weather set up, but it's not working very well in Flight Simulator, so we don't have any major weather out here right now, so it's not really modeled accurately, and that's a Flight Simulator thing. It's not part of this mod, so, but it is linked to the weather. Charts, again, we can go back in and look at our charts, and we'll go over that a little bit more in a few minutes. Flight plan, we can look through our flight plan here and see right now we're doing Tadpole to Merritt, and then that's the en route portion, and then we're going to be going into our arrival from Booth, and we can see which waypoints we're going to be flying to. And if we need to, say we were going to, we wanted to get rid of this arrival, well, we can actually go in and we can click on it and remove it from the flight plan. So that's a good option if you need to get rid of something. So that's the flight plan page. Procedure page, again, we can look at the procedures, and we can add an approach here now if we want to. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. So that shows you what procedures we've already loaded, if any, and it gives us the option to look at adding other procedures. Nearest airport or nearest function, we can actually see use any of these. So if we wanted to see the nearest airport, it'll generate a nearest airport list. So we can see, oh, Penticton is an airport that's close by. So now it loads up that airport information, and we can actually preview all the information. So we can look at the weather for Penticton and see if that's a viable alternate that we want to go to. And so all the information that we looked at before is now available for Penticton right from the nearest airport page. So that's a really handy feature. And you can also look up intersections, VORs, NDVs, airspace as well. So these other ones aren't modeled yet, but definitely the airport would be the most useful feature on here. And maybe VOR. Let's look at a VOR. So we want to look at the nearest VORs, and it's going to generate a list of them. So let's say we want to get information on this VOR, and that's the third point of VOR. So if we want, that's the information on the VOR, and we can also now just put that in our standby frequency, so it's right there if we need it. So we can load that in and make that our active VOR nav frequency. So very handy. Now we'll go back, and now this is the waypoint info or airport info, and this is again now where we are going to want to now go look at Vancouver for information. So this has the last airport we loaded, which we use the nearest airport feature. So let's go change it to Vancouver. And here we got Vancouver. So gives us the basic information on Vancouver here. We can preview again. Just look at the airport. Zoom in and zoom out, and it's not showing too much there. It can show us the procedures. So we're right now doing the Canuck 5, but it shows you every procedure here. It shows you the runways. So we're looking at 8 left right now, but we can also look at the different runways, what they are. It gives you the information for their length and width right there. We can look at all the frequency information for coming into Vancouver. We can get the weather data. This is what we want right now. So right now the weather in Vancouver, winds are 2206 knots, 20 miles broken 5500, 11 degrees, 2988. So we were originally thinking they were going to be on runway 8, but they might be on 26 with that weather. So now let's modify our flight plan. So we're looking outside, the weather is still looking pretty good. We'll just get the closest altimeter setting here and set that. So let's look at our flight plan. So let's say we want to set up now for an approach on 26 right instead of 8 left. So first thing we need to do is get rid of this arrival. So we're going to remove that arrival. And then we're going to go back now to procedure and add a new arrival. So we're going to be doing the Canuck 5, but now we want to do it for 26 right. And we can preview that here. And if I look at that, and we'll compare it with our chart after, but yeah, that looks, that's pretty much it for that approach. So now we can load that arrival. And let's go back and look at our flight plan now. Or sorry, look at our map and make sure that that is going to correspond with where we want to go. So we're still going to Merritt, then it goes off to Booth. And that looks like the arrival, and ends at Goreg and then goes to Vancouver. So let's go get that chart and see. So we'll go to charts now, and we're almost to Merritt, so I don't really need this chart anymore. So I'm going to go back to split view and call up Vancouver. And let's look at the arrivals for Vancouver. And we're going to use the Canuck 5 for 26 left or right. And now we can go to full view and we can zoom in. And now we can check. That's Vitev, Stave, GoPad, Mogus, Obdot, and Goreg for 26 right. So we can go back now, look at our flight plan, and from Booth it's Vitev, Stave, GoPad, Mogus, Obdot, and Goreg, and it includes also all the altitude restrictions as well. So it was Goreg 9 or above, Mogus 7 or above, Obdot 5 or above. So all those restrictions are in there too. So if I go back to chart, GoPad 9 or above, Mogus 7 or above, Obdot 5 or above, and Goreg 3 or above. So they're all loaded in there. So that's ready to go. And so we're cruising along here. We burned off a bit of fuel now, so I think we're going to put on our aux pumps just to transfer our aux fuel over. And how we looking for, still above the cloud here, so we're still looking pretty good. So that's pretty good. So now we need to figure out what approach we want to do. So let's go back to split view and look at the approaches. So we are going to, let's say, could do the ILS 26 right and see how that looks, and that comes in via Goreg. So that's one option. Or we could do the RNAV 26 right, and you can also do that via Goreg. So either one of those is fine. So let's see if we can select the approach, and let's look at the transitions. There is none, so we'll just load that approach, and let's look at our map here and see how that. So we're going Goreg yeah, so that looks pretty good there. So I think we'll continue with that approach. So we'll go back now and look at our chart for the arrival. Oh, back here, the chart. And I'll bring back up the arrival. And the Canuck 5 for 26 right. So we'll go full view on that. So we're going to cross Booth, Vitev. We need to be at Stave, max 230, that's not a problem, between 92 and 12,000. So we're at 14, so we're going to have to descend via that, and then we just need to make sure we stay above these restricted altitudes on the way in. So that's going to be the arrival procedure, and then we'll transition to the approach. Okay, so that's most of the features that I want to go over here in the modified GTN750. I think we've covered off most of them, as most of the ones that I use so far anyway. And so what I'll do is I'll check in with you as we get closer to the arrival. We still got a little ways to go here before we get to Booth. Okay, we're just coming up to Booth, and just another little feature I'll show you real quick here before we start our arrival. So we need to meet these restrictions, so that we need to be at Stave between 92 and 12,000. So let's say we want to be at Stave at 9,000 feet or 10,000 feet. So there's a utility, and it's VNAV. And we can say, well, let's pick our target waypoint. So Booth, we want to do, say, a 500 foot per minute rate of descent. We can set our target altitude of 10,000 feet, and we want to be 1 mile before, and it's going to tell us, oh sorry, no, we want Stave for that. So Stave. And it's going to tell us, hey, we need to start that descent in 1 minute. And we can also have a message pop up to tell us when to start that descent. So anyway, yeah, so I'll better request with ATC to start that descent if we want to do it at 500 feet per minute. So we're talking to ATC. I'd request lower, and he'd say, Roger, you're clear to maintain 10,000 on the Canuck 5. So I'll dial in 10,000. Select vertical speed, and we'll do a 500 foot per minute rate of descent. I'll bring a little bit of power off, keep my speed around 155, and we'll see how this works out. Okay, so I've kept that 500 foot per minute rate of descent on, and we are in cloud here. I had to put the de-icing on, and yeah, looks like we're going to be at Stave at 10,000 just before we get about a minute back. So we're just coming up to Stave. We're almost at 10,000 feet, and yeah, it worked out pretty well with that descent. So bring some power up to keep the speed up, and now we're just going to step down. So they're going to clear us down to say by the Canuck 5 cleared to 3,000 feet. So I will just have to make sure I stay above these altitudes all the way in. So we're past Stave now. We're going to go pad so we can go down to 9,000 feet. So I'll select 9,000, and I'll just vertical speed it down. Oh, 800 feet per minute should be fine. And say he tells us now to contact Vancouver approach on 126.4, so we can just go 1264, transfer, and there we go. So we'll contact approach and say we're descending to 3,000 by the Canuck 5. So our next altitude is going to be 7,000 after GoPad there. And if I say I wanted to get my tower frequency, so I'll go back, I'll go airport info, frequencies, and I can go down and see what is tower 18.7 or 1955. And I'll go with 18.7. That will, if they tell us the other one there, but I just remember 1955, so I can select 18.7 and it'll put it in the backup. And go back to the map mode. Tracking in a GoPad there, we're going to level off at 9,000. And yeah, once we're by GoPad, we can go down to 7,000. I can just verify that again on the chart. So GoPad, then down to 7,000. So it really, this whole touchscreen and Navigraph integration really makes the overall immersion a lot more effective, I think, in this aircraft. So we're still in cloud here. Still icing up a little bit. I'll de-ice the windscreen once we get below the cloud there. Okay, so now we're by GoPad and we're going to Mogus, so we can go down to 7,000. And this aircraft doesn't do VNAV, so that's why I just vertical speed. That's why I just do each step down altitude so that I make sure I'm not going to go below the altitude that I want in each segment. If you had an aircraft that was capable of VNAV, you could just set 3,000 and just fly the VNAV profile and it should maintain all those altitudes all the way in. But this aircraft's not capable of that. Now I know then we need to get ready for the ILS. I know the frequency is 1195 for the ILS and it's already put that in the standby for me because I loaded that approach, so that's handy. So all I got to do is swap it over when we get closer. So once we're by OBDOT, I'll probably switch over to the ILS page and we'll load that up. If we were IMC, I could put my minimums in here. See, this is the old. Using these knobs is always more challenging in this aircraft, that's for sure. So, but I still have to do this with the knobs. So maybe the developer can integrate this into the touchscreen as well. That would be nice. So I select Barrow, and we'll put 210 feet for our minimums. And there we go. Caution, we got a de-ice pressure high, okay. And there we go. We got Barrow minimums of 210 feet. So now we're by OBDOT and Goreg is next, so we can continue down to 3,000. And I'm going to go now over to the chart for the approach. And there's the chart for the approach. And we got 1195, so we'll tune that frequency. Whoop. We'll transfer that over. And then we're got that set up for the ILS now. So once we turn inbound off Goreg and we follow that track inbound, I'll switch over the CDI to the VOR and we will activate the ILS frequency. I believe we're still in cloud here. It wasn't supposed to be that bad, but I'm going to try and clean the window off here a little bit. the weather simulated in flight sim here is not always accurate, so you always need to be ready to deal with a little bit more adverse weather. It's supposed to be 5,500 broken, so we should be clear cloud now, but okay, we're 1,000 to go. Oh, we're just kind of breaking out of it now, so there we go. Just making the turn onto final from Goreg. We look at the approach, so from Goreg it's 3,000 to intercept the ILS glide path at Agnad. So that's looking good. We're tracking inbound now. And I think I'll switch over to the CDI, and we have our course 263, and I think we'll arm the approach. So we're now autopilot, localizers captured, altitude capture for 3,000 with glide slope armed, so we're looking good. Let's give the windshield another cleaning here. So we'll put tower frequencies in the back up there, so say he tells us to go to tower. We'll transfer that. And we'll look up ground frequency will be on the north side 2715. So we can put that in 12715, and that's ready to go. So we're waiting for our glide slope to come in. We got the runway visual there, so it looks pretty good. So I got a landing light on. Put our boost pumps on, and we'll get ready to configure the airplane. So we're just coming up on glide path, so we'll get the landing gear down. We're below 136, so we can put our first notch of flap, or approach flap. And I'll do the approach at 110 knots. So now we got everything we need to see. We're following the approach along here, monitoring our instruments. We have our chart information, so looking good. Intercepted the glide path. Glide path is now active. And we'll bring the power back to keep our speed back. So we'll do a pre-landing check here in a minute once we get full flap. And now that we've captured the glide slope, we can actually go in and put in our missed approach, so if we need it. So it's going to be up to 5,600 feet, so it's always good to have that altitude set in case you need to do the missed approach. I'm going to speed back a little bit. Turn the de-icing off now. And our speed is below 119 knots, so we can go land flap. A little bit of power to keep the speed up 110. We'll do our pre-landing check, so gear is down, flaps are landing, landing lights on, and we're looking good. I'll keep 105 as a speed. And so say we got our clearance to land from tower now. Okay, we're coming up on 1,000 feet. Everything looks good. Pre-landing check's complete. Missed approach altitude is set if we need it. And we are cleared to land. Runway 26 right. So we'll just exit at the first point we can turn off, and then we'll switch over to ground and get our taxi clearance for where we're going to park. So now I'm going to go back. We got the runway assured there, and I'm going to go back to my landing view here just for the references are the same. I'm going to disengage the autopilot, and we are going to just hand fly the last portion of the approach here. So I'll start bleeding my speed off. Across the threshold at about 90 knots. Okay, a little bit of power off. And we're on the ground. Brakes are working. Turn off at the first exit up here to the left. So tower will tell us to clear off next left and contact ground. So we come clear off to the left here. We'll turn off our landing light, turn off our taxi light, turn off our strobe, put our flaps up, and we will switch over to ground frequency. And just stop here and we'll call ground. Just ground says where are you parking? We'll say at the North FBO, and he'll say Roger, taxi via Mike, Quebec to ramp 7. Okay, Mike, Quebec to ramp 7. So, well, I need to see where we're going here, so let's go in and look at our chart. So we'll go to the split screen view, and we will go to the airport info, select the airport diagram, go to full, and you can see we're zoomed in. There we are, and we're going to ramp 7 over here. So I'll zoom in a little bit more. So it's going to be Mike and Quebec to ramp 7. So left turn on Mike, and to the end Quebec to ramp 7. So there we go. So now we can just follow along. We can monitor our position on the screen on the right there as we're taxiing in to make sure we're heading in the right direction. So very handy. So I'll taxi in, and then I'll just check in with you as we get the aircraft parked. Okay, we're parked here at the ramp, and just going to finish off by saying I think I really like this GTN 750 Mod. It makes the immersion and usefulness of the Garmin navigation system that much better with the touchscreen usability, and I really enjoy using it in these GA aircraft. I think it's a great mod. I think I look forward to seeing what it's going to look like when it's completed. So I'm going to keep using it for now, and I think we saw you were able to see lots of features and lots of ways to use this system, and I think it's only going to get better with time. So hope you enjoyed this little tutorial of this modification, and if you like the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and maybe I'll do another demo once the mod gets completed or gets near completion. So again, thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the flight today, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bandit out.